We had this horrific incident where a young woman was gang raped on a bus in Delhi. And that incident made me pause. It triggered a lot of memories which I had of being sexually harassed at work, on the streets, in public transport. And I noticed that even my friends started to open up and share their stories. And to me, what was common was also that none of us had shared it with any official authority. That means there is a data gap. I mean, good luck to those, and I know many young people who have clarity of vision. I mean, Greta Thunberg is a great example. She knows exactly what she wants.
Hello friends, we are back again on Big Bang Chats, and today we are talking about one of the most popular choices in today's times, career in social development sector. And we have no other better person than Elsa Marie D'Silva, who has had no exposure whatsoever in the first 20 years of her career towards this space. And one fine day she decided to start something in this space, and today she runs a very successful foundation with the name of Red Dot Foundation, having her organization in India and in US. Let's understand from her how has been her journey. Thank you, Elsa. Thanks for taking our time to speaking to us. How have you been doing?
I'm fine. Thanks for having me, Mohan.
Pleasure, pleasure. So when did you fly down from US just a week ago?
Actually, I went first to Nairobi for a Peace Tech conference, and then I came for 2 days and went to Kuwait for an event, and I came back this Monday.
All right. Okay. So let's start the conversation from the point when you thought of getting into a social enterprise, and how did you stumble upon this? I'm aware that you were working with airlines and you were working with corporates in the past. So how did this journey start?
Actually, there was never any intention to start a social enterprise. You stumble, like you said, into many things. I will say that 2012 was a landmark year for me.
Okay.
It was a moment where I had reached this glass ceiling where, in aviation, I spent 20 years, that is 2 decades, between Jet Airways and then Kingfisher Airlines. I was already Vice President Network Planning, a very strategic department. You can't get better than that.
Bigger than that.
And I knew at that time nobody was going to make me CEO or COO of the any airline in India. Even till today, there's no woman who's reached that role, right? But I was also looking for my purpose. I knew that I wanted to work on women's rights, children's rights, but didn't know what to focus on. And it was never meant to actually be its own entity. It was always going to be a side project. But many things happened. As you know, 2012, we had Kingfisher Airlines go through a financial downturn, and eventually it shut. In December, 11 years ago, exactly to the day tomorrow, we had this horrific incident where a young woman was gang raped on a bus in Delhi.
Right.
And that incident made me pause. It triggered a lot of memories which I had of being sexually harassed at work, on the streets, in public transport. And I noticed that even my friends started to open up and share their stories. And to me, what was common was also that none of us had shared it with any official authority. That means there is a data gap. If you're not officially reporting, it's not showing up in the statistics, and the statistics do not reflect the true nature of the problem. And coming from a corporate sector where we were using data to make business decisions, I thought, this is a gap that I wanted to address. And so 10 days after the gang rape, we launched a platform called Safe City. It is a crowd map. So what it means, it crowdsources data. It encourages people to report their personal experiences of sexual and gender-based violence. It gets plotted on a map and visualized as hotspots, and the idea is to look at it as trends and patterns by location, so that one, we can have information of what's going on, but two, we can also get our communities involved and work with institutions like police, city officials, transport, or even education institutions to make spaces safer.
Right. So when you thought of, launching Safe City, how did you go about it? What were the first few steps?
Yeah. So the first step was I was really angry and wanted to do something.
Okay.
Okay. So if you remember at that time, people were protesting, there were
Yeah.
demonstrations, everyone was outraged. I was too, but I wanted to do something that would last beyond that moment. Every time there's some issue, we get upset. I wanted to do more than just protest or demonstrate, which of course I did. And I also posted on social media. I wanted to do something concrete. And I had heard about another platform in Egypt that was doing this.
Okay.
So what we did was we replicated it, but customized to the Indian context. And then once the stories started to come in, I said, what next? And because, Kingfisher had shut down, I did not rush into another corporate job. I told myself, let's take a break, let's focus, let's try out new things and see where it goes. And so I actually started working with a community in Bandra to see whether such a data set can have influence on the police, have influence on community members, and also city officials. And then when the police got interested, the police didn't have this data, and then they got involved. They changed their beat patrol timings. The police commissioner, assistant police commissioner in Bandra called up his counterpart in the BMC, told him to cut all the trees that were blocking the street lights, which was making the streets dark. And then the elected representative called and said, we have budgets for women's safety, which, none of us think about. And he said, we can put CCTV cameras, but we had a say where the CCTV cameras were placed. And then similarly in Delhi, we had a group of students who wanted to do something. So they replicated our methodology in Delhi, in the Dwarka area, around their colleges. And we could see similar progress when you share a data set that really showcases people's personal experiences.
Wonderful, wonderful. So let's break it down. So you had this idea. Now, how did you come about creating this app where, the technology has to come in, the awareness of the people to report the incidents on the app has to come in. So just, take us through.
So it was a step-by-step process. The first thing we launched was the app, and the app was based on open source code.
Okay.
So the platform at that time was Ushahidi, which is a Kenyan open source software, which was crowd mapping various issues. It had started during political violence post-elections in Kenya, but subsequently it's been used for many different things.
Okay.
And that's that's actually the advice I give new entrepreneurs. You don't have to reinvent the wheel, don't have to invest big time in technology. There's a lot of open source code out there which you can use to your benefit. Try it out. If it works, then you can invest. And that's what we did over the last 11 years. We learned what's working, what's not working, and our app today is in its third iteration. It's now customized. We have a tech partner, the Data Duck, a woman-led woman-led company, and she is a great partner on this journey because she also understands what we are doing. So she doesn't treat us like a client. She's a partner on this journey, which is very important to me. But coming back to what you said, so we had launched the tech. And at that time, I wasn't thinking I'm starting a social enterprise and stuff like that. I just was responding to the need. But then after that was the education bit. And I feel that's where you can't put a tech platform on a topic like this, which is deeply impactful, without also accompanying it with education. And we started working with adults, but quickly learned that actually these adults, the first time they experienced violence was when they were children. So that got us into schools. And so, step by step, we started working with schools, we started working with colleges, we started working in communities, we also started working with corporates. Because India came up with a new law for corporates in 2014 or 2013 actually, where they said, every company must have a sexual harassment policy, have an investigation committee, and there were certain processes that need to be followed. So we felt that we could add value with our corporate partners. And then 2 years after doing all this and realizing that this is something that I enjoy doing, that is adding value, it's deeply meaningful, it's only then that I registered a non-profit in India.
Okay. So, if we talk about how easy was it to get the attention of the authorities to make use of the data, because you were collecting a lot of data, and you know, a lot of actionables had to be, you know, happening from the insights that you were getting on the data.
So we started off with a bottom-up approach.
Okay.
So working with communities, residential communities, or communities that were part of the non-profit work, other non-profits. So, and we found that to be useful because think about it, we live in India, okay? If you start from the top, it takes years to establish those kind of relationships, and to then get them to understand what you're doing and try to replicate it on the ground would take years. We would have shut down by then. But because we had this bottom-up approach, we could engage communities to share their data and also come up with solutions. When you go to authorities with solutions, I find they are more willing to work with you because you're not going, we don't adopt this approach of naming, shaming or blaming. We are saying we have a problem, we have a common agenda to solve the problem, we have data that you don't, so how can we work together? And that's a better approach, and now we have several police commissioners wanting to work with us or working with us using our data. We have cities approaching us to work with them to reduce violence.
So, if we talk in terms of data, almost 10 years now that you have launched, 11 years effectively, how many people have reported on that app?
So, we have 55,000 unique stories, which may sound small, but here we are not talking about big data. We are talking about hyper-local, disaggregated, relevant data. And that is very important. But we've used this data set to engage over 1.5 million citizens. And most of this data, even if it's crowdsourced, has come from intensive, on the ground, human interaction through workshops, trainings, focus group discussions, where we explain the continuum of violence, what constitutes violence. Why is it important to report it? Because it's a crime under Indian law, all this violence, whether it's non-verbal, staring, leering, ogling, verbal commenting, catcalling, sexual invites, touching, groping, stalking. And now that we live in a digital world, it's also digital forms of this violence which are important, right? And a lot of people think it's normal to experience these things because it's so part of our daily routine.
Yeah, so
right?
prevalent.
So prevalent. And think of the term we use in India, we call it eve teasing.
Yeah.
Eve teasing also trivializes it, right? And then pop culture, when we watch a film and the hero of the film pursues a woman, even if she says no, 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 at the end of the film he gets her, right? That means what you're indirectly telling the audience is that disregard the no, she means yes and you will get her. But to what extent? Because in real life, people have died because of this, you know, pervasive behavior.
Sure. There are many suicides that happen.
Yeah. Or there's an honor killing, or the person, because there's unrequited love, may kill that person as well, you know.
Right. And I'm sure, you know, by the virtue of the kind of society we are, it's not easy for people to report it. So it takes a lot. So when you say 55,000, I can imagine, you know, that the propensity of such violations and crimes, you know, maybe 10x or 20x or 30x.
Oh yeah. So the official statistics, you know, are highly underreported, right? And whatever we have on our map, 90% say that they have not gone to the police nor will go to the police.
Right.
And often the, you know, fear of dealing with the police, fear of engaging with the lengthy justice system, telling their parents, because these are young people between say 18 and 25, they are now going to get married. They don't want that dishonor to be linked to their name, right?
The social stigma.
Social stigma. So even their parents stop them from going to the police station. So even if it happens, it's not their fault, right? So they don't, and 90% of young people have told us that they would not tell an adult, like their parents or teachers, about what's happening, because what would be the reaction? Take away the mobile phone, stop them from going out, go out only with another adult. Your life comes to a standstill.
Taking away the entire freedom, and imposing lots and lots of restrictions. So whatever little normal life they are leading, that's also taken away from them.
But I want to highlight, this is not an India problem alone. It's all over the world. It's a global issue where 1 in 3 women experience it at least once in their lifetime. It's not that men don't experience it, but the numbers are much, much higher for women. And so that's why we've also got a US nonprofit where we are working globally in different countries, including the US, to map out violence.
Fantastic, yeah. So, from the point of view of children watching this podcast, they would want to know that if they want to be a, social entrepreneur and they want to start a social enterprise, how easy or difficult it is. And, what is the process? Especially there are certain compliances that really, scare the people. There are lots of regulations that's also, kind of scary. And the biggest question, which is, always there in the mind and dwindling the decision, is that where do I get funds from? How do I keep it rolling?
Absolutely. And I think this is a great field for a lot of young people to explore. I would suggest that they first volunteer. So volunteer with different organizations, then find a cause that speaks to your heart.
Right.
Because there's so many issues. There's climate, there's sanitation, there's plastic, there's air pollution, but there's also child sexual abuse, general sexual abuse, road safety, so many aspects, right? There's elder abuse as well. So volunteer with different organizations, get some experience, figure out what speaks to your heart. Because whether you're a social entrepreneur or an entrepreneur, it's a hard journey, right? There are 2 aspects to it. One, and when you're a social entrepreneur, there are 2 aspects. So one is the cause itself, and then running the business, running the organization. So in good times, everybody loves reading about the awards you won. There's a lot of, goodwill out there. But nobody knows the pain to get to that point, right? So that's why I say find something that will see you through the lows also. Because when nothing is working out, at least you should be able to justify to yourself that why you're invested in this cause.
Then so the why has to be very clearly defined.
The purpose has to be very clearly defined. The second is, you don't only have to be a non-profit. There are 3 ways that you can structure your organization. It can be a for-profit, it can be a non-profit, and then a social enterprise, right? The social enterprise in India is still a little, murky. Section 8 is supposed to be it, but there are no clear rules about how, even a for-profit business with a slight social lens can be called a social enterprise. But in reality, in the West, social enterprise is a legal form, where the profit component is not so heavy. It's more the social impact that is heavy. What social impact are you generating from the work that you do, right? And then you can sign up for incubators and accelerators. When I started, this was actually non-existent in India. But since then, the government has invested a lot in the startup ecosystem. So there's a lot of help out there.
Especially for social enterprise, I would believe.
And even others, even for profit. I think there's a lot. When I started, what really helped me get off onto this journey was attending an incubator in Philadelphia, and it was focused on public safety. And it helped me think about who's my customer, who's going to pay for the services, because in my case, the people using our app are not the ones paying for it.
Right.
So you have to think of your revenue stream, right? Even if it's a for-profit. People are not just going to hand over money to you. So again, how are you going to get money? So in our case, we have donations, which are not that much. Grants. Grants are where you write a proposal and then either a company may give it to you under their CSR budget. CSR is corporate social responsibility, or there are foundations that give you money to do social work. And the last one is we also generate revenue working with corporates on their sexual harassment policies and implementation of the act in their companies, or putting up events around, say, International Women's Day, speaking with their corporate employees. Sometimes they want you to do brown bags, etc. So we generate an income with that, but that constitutes about 30% of our revenue stream. So it's very important for you to have a diversified income stream, because then you're not dependent on one type. And then the regulations. It's always good to have a system set up like you would in a for-profit enterprise, which is HR, finance, audit, so that you are covered. Compliance is absolutely critical even in the non-profit sector.
Right. So when we talk of grants, Elsa, how easy it is to get?
It's not easy, it's a lottery. And you cannot base a budget based on lottery. But like even for profit enterprises, when you're an entrepreneur, the first 5 years are very difficult. So that's why I always tell young people as well, you have to build your support system, you have to have a financial nest egg, and mentally prepare yourself for the next 5 years, you're not going to have money, right? It's not easy. So even as a social entrepreneur, it's not easy. But if you have the consistency, if you have the clarity, if you build strong partnerships, if you have a model and you have to constantly test that model, so prototype, try it out, build on it, you'll fail many times, improve on it, learn from your mistakes, strengthen it, and then people will start to recognize. People have been watching my journey from the beginning, and maybe after 10 years, they are willing to invest in what I'm doing, because I switched careers. I didn't know a single person in the development sector. I didn't know how to do this work. I had always worked for somebody else and had a monthly salary deposited in my account. Here I'm now responsible for other people's salaries. So it's a very different ball game. But I think that if you prove on a consistent level, people will want to align with you, and don't feel afraid to ask for help.
Right. So 2 questions come to my mind. One, that how easy was it for you to orient towards, from being an employee, getting a fixed monthly salary every month to run your house, your family, and meeting your expenses, to coming to a very, very insecure, unstable financially, knowing from where the next penny is coming. How did you orient yourself? How?
It was difficult. So Mohan, it's not an easy journey, because you have no idea where the money is going to come from.
Yeah.
But I was at a moment in my life where I said, if I don't do it now, I'm never going to have the courage to give it up, right? Because I was so comfortable. I was vice president 10 years back, earning a lot of money, traveling business class, first class. But those are not the things that give you joy. And I knew that I wanted to do something different. So in a way, life handed me an opportunity where I had to take a career break. I could have, yes, rushed into another corporate job, but I told myself, take the time. And there were a lot of people around me who would say, are you sure? What are you doing? Are you willing to give up a career of 20 years?
Right.
And I had to keep telling myself, reminding myself why I was on this path, and that I could always go back to corporate. I had a CV that I could get a job, right? But a job is a job. This is not a job. This is a purposeful, meaningful work that I've created for myself.
Right. So what I'm understanding from your, from you is that if you're connected to the purpose very, very strongly, then rest everything, becomes easy. So you got to be really connected.
But
very
the
strongly.
purpose doesn't come to you just like that. I think you have to go deep into yourself and reflect.
Right.
And it's not something, I don't think I could have done it when I was 20.
Right.
I don't think I could have done it even when I was 30. I was not ready. So sometimes I feel maybe if you have clarity of purpose right from the beginning, it's great. I mean, good luck to those. And I know many young people who have clarity of vision. I mean, Greta Thunberg is a great example. She knows exactly what she wants. I don't think I had that clarity at the beginning. I also wanted to be financially independent.
Right.
I always knew that I would work on women's rights. Which aspect of women's rights I didn't know. But I also wanted to be financially independent. And because I was financially independent, I think it allowed me to do this, because you have to decide what is the bare minimum that you can survive on without feeling like you're in survival mode.
Right. So now the next question that was coming to my mind was that, say, given a situation where a child is about 20 to 23-year-old and he or she has got the clarity that, I'm really strongly connected to a purpose. This is a strong, social cause, and I want to, drive it, and he or she has no money whatsoever. How difficult or easy would it be for him or her to take this cause on and convert it into a
So now, I mean, I think they have to do a lot of hard work researching what's available. There are a lot of grants for young people. There are a lot of grants for collectives. So you don't also have to have an organization, or to begin with, like I said, volunteer or take up a job with another organization. Try it out. Try it out, because I feel sometimes, and being a business person, starting a company is easy. Winding down the company has its own challenges.
Huge.
It's huge, right? So rather than just jumping into starting an organization, first do some homework, experiment it. Even with me, it took me 2 years before I could say, okay, this is really what I want to do, and then I registered the nonprofit. And I tried it out. I got my hands dirty. It's called learning by doing now,
Right. Okay. So, so when were you confident, or what gave you confidence that yes, this is the time for me to register my not-for-profit or Red Dot Foundation? And you said, yes, now I know that I am in it for long term, and this is where I'm committed.
Actually, it was a mentor who sat me down and said, what are you planning to do? Because if you don't concentrate and don't commit, then you're going to miss the bus. And once I said, okay, I'm going to commit to this, that's when we got into the incubator. It's like your subconscious then finding those opportunities for you. We got into the incubator. It helped me understand the business side of things, came back, registered it, started implementing programs, raising funds. It was slow in the beginning, and slowly, finding who might want to join my team. So I reached out to women who had worked with me in aviation and had taken a career break, had free time, were service trainers, knew how to train, were passionate about the issue, but didn't want to commit to a full-time job. And so I got them as partners, and rest is history.
So for those 2 years when you were running Safe City, what was the mode of income?
There was no income.
There was no income at all.
It was
whatsoever.
a volunteer effort. And I could have taken money in my personal name, but integrity is one of my values, and I did not want to do that.
So once you started Red Dot, how has been the journey?
It's been incredible. So for me personally, it's been a lot of unlearning, relearning, learning. I met such amazing people doing incredible work. I feel like my brain has expanded because there are so many aspects to my work. There's an urban planning aspect. Of course, there's the gender aspect. There's the tech aspect. So there's the mental health aspect. So for me, I see a lot of possibilities even going forward. I feel we've just touched the surface. From when we started, people didn't understand the value of crowdsourced data. Today, it's an increasingly valuable data set.
Yes.
And yeah, I think the you know, for me, I made the right decision at the right time. And more important than that, you know, I listened to my gut, because there's a lot of noise around you, you know, where people always want to tell you what you're doing wrong and say you could be doing better. And I'm like, okay, I have to trust what I want to do. And I think we were talking earlier, and you said when you were studying, there were some members of your cohort who took jobs with a lower paying salary, but at some point they caught up with you, right?
They got higher.
They got higher. And in my last webinar, I said, what if we were to put a monetary value to the happiness, the joy, the purpose that fulfills your life?
Beautiful.
You know, could that be measured equally?
Yeah. If that could be quantified,
Yeah.
you would be sitting on 5x or 10x money.
Yeah.
Yeah. Lovely. So how big is the foundation now? What are some of the existing projects? You know, what is exciting happening?
We are so busy right now. So in India, we have a team member size of 18 people, 18, and we have lots of volunteers. We are working in the states of Delhi, NCR, Maharashtra, Goa, Karnataka, and soon we are adding Tamil Nadu.
Okay.
We have a project with the Police Commissioner of Faridabad to reduce violence.
Okay.
We're starting a project with the city of Chennai on their gender lens to help them reduce violence. In Maharashtra, Goa and Karnataka, we work with 300 education institutions on safe campuses. We work with 25 corporates on their safe you know, workplace policies. We have legal aid clinics in Mumbai, and we have, with L'Oreal Paris, we have a bystander intervention training for 50,000 people, where, you know, we are training them to learn to intervene without putting themselves at risk. So there are strategies that you can use when you see something. You know, like when there's a bomb threat, they say, see something, do something. Same way, a lot of us may not be perpetrators of violence, but when we see it happening, we don't know how to intervene. You know, so how do you do it without putting yourself at risk? So we have multiple projects, our teams are busy. In the US, which now I'm focused on, we have partners in 20 countries. Our app is available in 15 languages, and yeah, we are like trying to go deep with city partnerships, police partnerships, etc.
Fabulous. So how happy you are at this point in time?
I'm the happiest I've ever been.
Wonderful. So do you still feel that you face the challenge of raising the funds?
Yes,
All the time.
that's an ongoing challenge, and I think for an entrepreneur or a promoter of any business, that is always the case, right? If you're a owner of a small business or a very big business, fundraising is fundraising.
Right.
You know, so you cannot do your work without money. Even you can't do good work without money.
Yeah. So, you know, if you have to say advise, or if I have to ask you that what are some of the skill sets that you believe are elementary in becoming a great successful social entrepreneur, what would they be?
So one is empathy, because if you're a social entrepreneur, there's definitely an issue that you're working on. So you have to have empathy, or your emotion quotient should be high. Emotional intelligence quotient should be high, right? I think as an entrepreneur, you have to know how to run a business. So financial acumen, you have to put a team together. So even your HR, human resource acumen has to be high.
I would say very, very critical.
Very critical. Without people, you cannot do it. Alone, you can't do anything, right? And you need partners as well. You have to be open and flexible. So marketing, learning how to use social media, being able to speak in public, thinking of innovative ideas to be more visible. I think you have to be the whole package. And if you don't have, so I feel you have to be self-aware. What are your strengths? You can't have everything, right? So what you don't have, surround yourself with people who do have it, so that you're complementary to each other. And don't feel threatened by people. Always try to hire the most intelligent people, because you need that. You can't do it on your own.
And how easy is it to ensure that compliances are being maintained?
It's easy. Have your processes in place. Sit with your CA, understand the cycles of reporting, what you need to report, and don't break the law. Simple as that.
So the chapter that you have in US,
It's an organization.
It's
It's
a
a non-profit registered in the US.
and you can do any project across the globe.
Yeah.
Interesting. So, when we talk of a lot of children looking at this career as a, viable career option today, what would be your advice, in terms of, I'm sure patience is, one of the things that I'm hearing in your conversation all the time, that, you got to be patient, you got to be really at it for a longer time. But what could be some of the other, advices coming from you in terms of, ensuring that they are able to, lead through and they're able to take it through logical conclusion?
So, whether you're an entrepreneur or a social entrepreneur, it's not going to be an easy journey, right? It's not like I decide I'm going to start a business and people are going to come and buy your product or your service and you're going to get rich instantly. Today, everybody wants to get rich instantly. There are no free lunches. You have to put in the hard work. You have to do your research, you have to learn, you have to adapt. Look at when COVID happened. A lot of businesses shut down, but you have to learn and pivot based on the, they call it the VUCA world, right? Which is constantly changing.
Yeah,
so
volatile.
you have to be comfortable to adapt. You have to be comfortable to be flexible. And you have to know that there'll be, with successes, also failures. But failures, you learn. What are failures? It didn't work out. It didn't work for a reason. Find out what was the reason and then change that, So it's the whole deal, I would say. And being self-aware is critical. Always also figuring out that, am I on the right path? What are my goals? Why am I doing this? And constantly check in, with yourself. Because if you're not happy doing it, better walk away.
Right. How important do you think a mentor is, in a journey?
It's very important because, and you can have mentors throughout your life and they don't always have to be older than you. You can have peer mentors, you can have younger people. Say for example, technology. Technology is changing so quickly that you might not have somebody senior to help you. You might have to go to somebody who's younger than you, who understands.
Yeah.
Like my nieces who are 11, 9 and 7 are so fully well versed with the metaverse. I have to sit with them to understand what is going on over there.
Exactly. Absolutely. Absolutely. Anything else that you would want to, share with us, which will be really, insightful?
I want to tell the young people listening is that don't give up. Try out things. Because if I take my own life, I graduated in English literature. My first job was as a flight attendant. And every 5 years, I changed roles and I never ever thought that I would, if you had asked me, everyone asks you where do you see yourself in 5 years, 10 years. I could never have predicted, but I was open. And so when the opportunity presented itself, I grabbed it. Okay, so be willing to take risks in life, be open to change, and don't be stuck in a comfort zone. The magic is when you move out of your comfort zone.
Yeah. Last question. So, how do you see the development sector is, in this country, how the social enterprises are?
I mean, take India for example. We are a country of 1.4 billion. Not everybody has the privilege. If you're watching this video, that means you have some privilege. You have access to technology, you can understand English, so that means you have some privilege, right? But most of our country doesn't have that. There's so many issues. So there's a lot of opportunity.
Right.
It's like, when two guys were sent to Africa to sell shoes.
Yeah.
And one guy came back and said, oh, nobody wants to buy. And the other said, no, there's so much of opportunity because nobody wears shoes.
Yeah, nobody's wearing shoes.
You know, so it's how you look at the problem.
Fantastic, yeah, lovely. Thanks for sharing all the insights and taking time for speaking to us.
Thank you.
Pleasure, yeah, wonderful.